Hello, welcome humans to the Rediscover Human podcast. Today is episode 15. Got me and Josh here once again. Thanks for everyone that listened to last week's episode. I was happy that we did that subject, and I hope you got something from it as well. Spiral dynamics, man, it's fascinating. Something to like look into and then let go of, and then maybe revisit in a year or so, isn't it?
It's interesting. Once you learn about it, it's like you've got it running in the background at all times. So when you then witness situations, it's hard to not think about, where does that fit into the model, you know?
Yeah. Did you hit start on the camera? Just checking. Sorry. Yeah, we're rolling. Cool. Just double checking. Yeah, it is. It's one of those that's always there now, and you start to look out for it. But to this week, we are sipping on your new product.
Yeah.
You released a organic lion's mane, which I've never seen an organic lion's mane, I don't think.
I think there's a lot of companies out there that claim organic, but this is certified organic lion's mane.
Okay.
So there's all the paperwork there to back up the claim. And yeah, it's like we source this stuff from China.
Yeah.
Buy it in, and that's where I think 85% of these sort of medicinal mushrooms are grown in the world. Yeah. And we use just the fruiting body, which is like the head of the mushroom, which is really packed with...
The jeb end.
Yeah, the jeb end of the mushroom, which has got like all the beneficial shit.
Sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like really high levels of beta glucans and stuff like that. I'm getting into the sort of like techie mushroom speak now, but
yeah,
that's the beta glucans, the stuff that have all the immune enhancing effect. Is one of the compounds that people sort of tout their mushrooms for having.
Yeah.
And these have got this lion's mane has got like 21% beta glucans, which is like super high.
What ratio is it to like? How many grams do they turn into 1 gram?
So the lion's mane is 8-1. So they take 8 grams of mushroom, make it into 1 gram of powder. And then with the cordyceps, it's a 10-1 ratio. And they're wild crafted as well, which is like they're grown in as natural as habitat as possible. So the cordyceps, for example, wild harvested cordyceps are the most expensive supplement, I believe, on the planet at $20,000 per kilo.
Are they over ginseng? I bet there's a battle there. I bet they're close.
Yeah, maybe. I've heard someone, I'm just touting someone else, I've heard someone else say that, but like, It's hard to imagine something being over 20 grand per kilo.
Yeah.
But the wild ones, I don't know if you've ever seen them, it's like they grow out of caterpillars.
Yeah, it looks so mad.
Yeah, it's crazy. But what they can do is they can like sort of...
Take over your brain, right?
Yeah, they
they're in a video
the brain
game
of the caterpillar.
Yeah. So you've got them and them. So this is my. I'll be honest. I've had a bit of a mushroom fast. Like I went hard on the mushrooms. I built my business because the lion's mane like got me through the start of Way of the Rope. Like all of the creating a website, starting opening a business bank account, setting up an accountant, sourcing ropes, cutting ropes, tying ropes, making the courses, all of that. The beginner's course was all fueled by lion's mane. Like that was the main. I was on reishi and chaga, and it was a whole cocktail of mushrooms going on. And I've had a break from it for maybe 2 or 3 months, including psilocybin as well. A bit less of a break from that. I think we had one like a month or so ago. We had a little journey in Dartmoor, but generally I've been off the mushrooms because I got a good chunk of growth from it, and then I want to kind of reset to like sovereignty, like where am I at? But I'm happy now that you've just gave me a little gift the other day of the product. It's my first time trying your product, and I'm just going to go through this jar in my own time on the right days when I've got work to do, when we want to go deep in discussion or something like that. So be a bit more humility with the mushrooms. But yeah, cheers to your new launch, mate.
Nice, man. Yeah, it's good to see. Like we've been getting few jars flown out the door over the last few days, and I've been getting feedback already, people saying they're drinking it. And I think that's one of the things with a lot of these supplements is like they work in the background, but with the lion's mane you literally drink it and you feel it immediately. So it's
everyone says they feel it. Yeah,
good to get that feedback.
Yeah. We just had, it's about 12 o'clock now as we record this. We met at 8:30. The gym you have to book in a slot, so we went for the 8:30 to 10 a.m. slot. And I've been training, to be honest. I've not shared this story, but a few weeks ago I accidentally did a triple dose of ayahuasca, which I'm not going to go into how that happened. That's the whole story for another time. But my energy was so depleted. I feel like the plant medicines, though you're doing work and you're journeying, it's depleted some of your nervous system or something gets completely drained. And I've even seen Ben Greenfield talk about this, and he's the only other person I've seen talk about this, because everyone else is like, yeah, do microdose and do this, and maybe there's a period you can do it. Maybe I've got to a point where like McKenna says, when you get the message, hang up the phone. And I feel like for good long periods I need to hang up the phone for a bit. But anyway, so I've been really energetically depleted for a few weeks from that triple trip, which was almost OD. And the last week or two, I've finally started to build in energy, and I've been going to rock climbing, bouldering since that opened 2 to 3 times a week. Been loving that. Hitting a gym session at least once with you a week, sometimes twice, I think. I've been hitting my David Lloyd. I've been doing the ultimate exercise, Doug McGuff stuff, which I think is truly, for anyone who just wants to start getting into strength training and is worried about injuries, look at ultimate exercise. And anyone from old people to rehabilitation to not doing sport in ages, start with ultimate exercise, because it's so low risk of injury. And it just, me, Lewis and Peter had a good session yesterday with that. I've been running regularly. We've been swimming in the river most days. But what I have been making sure I turn up every week for is at least one session with you to do the strong fit type sessions. And I'm always like, it's never in my head at the time. I'm like, I enjoy climbing more, I enjoy running more. But when I do the sessions, I'm so glad I do them, because they're so good. They really are so good.
Yeah, I have the same thing. So I've been doing these sort of strong fit style sessions 3 to 4 times a week, basically doing it every other day.
Smashing it, yeah.
And it's so neurally taxing that before this morning, I'm like drinking my coffee in the car on the way to the gym, like psyching myself up, ready to go, and you get in there and you saw, well, I think a combination between like how hard the work is and then the heat. By like exercise 4, I'm forgetting where I've put my logbook and shit in the gym. It's like, it really does get you. But it's been good because, like, although we're kind of doing a different thing and there's some crossover at the moment, like we're hitting that one running session a week together, we're hitting the one strong fit session. And I think it's quite cool because the sort of framework we're developing for training, it can be taken in a number of directions. It's like about creating that base where... Yeah,
we're still base building, aren't we?
Base building, we're tackling the whole idea of bigger, faster, stronger.
Bigger, faster, stronger.
But then you can tweak that to, personalize for yourself. Like you love running more. So although you're keeping that base of the, sort of stronger element, you're focusing more, you're running it in the running direction.
Faster, yeah.
Whereas I'm going more in the strength direction, but still keeping that running base.
But still realizing how important all of they are for each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really is helping me. The strength stuff is like complementing everything. So today's session was, we did rope climbs, which was nice, because it's supposed to be you're supposed to sit underneath a yoke and attach a sled to the rope, and the rope comes over the yoke and you're sitting down and you're pulling. I remember last time we did that, our traps were all fried. We pulled our necks on that one, didn't we? But this time you were like, let's just do rope climbs. So we started with rope climbs. That was really good. And that's for me, if like Ninja Warrior comes, if like you say, we're building this base, and then if, from my perspective, if I choose a sport to delve into when competition opens up again, be it Ninja Warrior, be it obstacle course racing, be it park run, be it parkour, I can then change my training towards that. So Ninja Warrior, the final obstacle on that is always a rope climb. And I've always been it's so boring to climb ropes. It's not fun. It's really not fun, is it? The grip is awkward on your wrists. Your fingers ache at the end of it. So it's really nice to start with some rope climbing. It's my first time doing it in a while. And I actually felt quite strong because we've been doing the bent over rope pulls, which gets all the muscles firing. So I've been building up to rope, because it's quite an intense thing to climb a rope without your legs for any human, I think.
It felt like it feels like a similar movement to the bent over rope pull in terms of the muscles you're working. Your chest is firing, your biceps are burning at the end of it. And I think the cool thing about the rope climb is like it plays back into that idea of locomotion. So that's one of the things we're always talking about. It's like, how can you learn to be more efficient at getting from point A to point B? Well, point A to point B, it's not always running. Yeah. Sometimes it's, climbing.
And I look at David Bell, the founder of parkour, and his father, Raymond Bell. And I think his father was like the national champion of the rope climb, like in the fire service. It's a bit not looked as the same way, I think, now, but like back then it was a lot more about like agile and fit. And he was like, I don't know, it might have been 20 meters or 15 meter rope that have a competition, like from sitting on the floor, boom, ring a bell at the top. Yeah. And he was the fastest one. And he's one of the founders of, or the inspiration for the foundation of parkour. And that came from like fire service and rope climbing and be strong to be useful. And I think that's a good thing that we should have in ethos for ours, to take that as be strong to be useful as well, right?
Is that the video you showed me before? It's like a movie scene where the he's being chased down
District
the fire
13.
escape.
Yeah, that's the same guy, yeah.
Okay,
it's his
cool.
father. Who,
What's that video? Because people need to watch that. It's
District
amazing.
13, the chase scene. If you just put District 13 chase scene, yeah, it's like a 3-minute chase, and it's really epic. He does the underbar through the glass. Really classic parkour in the mainstream culture. But yeah, so the rope climb was really good, and we did like up, down, touch the bum on the floor, and then we're starting to go back up. We did 4 sets. So it's like we didn't the double rep of a rope climb, because it's only like 10 meters, isn't it? It's not maybe not even that. But the double rep of a rope climb is when it's, you know, you're going down and then you have to turn your energy back up. Anyway, then we went into the overhead sloth press, which is really hard. Like you take a barbell over your head on one hand, and then you squat, do a press, and then stand back up again, and that it activates so much internally going on.
We should make a demo video of that for people.
We should
to
do,
see.
yeah. Not that we're the best at demonstrating.
No, not yet.
Just so people get the idea. You might be able to do it better than us, but it just, the way a lot of the stuff is working is, which is ties in with WEC method as well, is both sides utilize a lot of gym stuff. Once you put a barbell in your hands and you're holding it with both hands, everything's kind of, it's good because it helps things be linear, and it helps you be even and distribute weight on your spine, so you're not kind of distorting your spine. But at the same time, the one-handed barbell stuff helps you to learn to stabilize. Now, StrongFit called it anti-rotation training. Now, speaking to WEC and having my own perspective on it, I'm not really about anti-rotation training, because cats do not bloody anti-rotate. They rotate.
Yeah,
you know? And to try and build strength to stop you rotating doesn't really make much sense. But stability, I think you can have stability and be able to rotate. And that's where the rope and that all comes in as well. But so the sloth press, then we did one-arm deadlift, which I really liked that.
Yeah. One-arm barbell carry, then one-arm deadlift.
Oh, we did one-arm barbell carry, which was taxing as heck.
That's crazy movement as well, because it's like to what you were speaking about then. We're doing a 30-meter walk, but the track's only 50 meters long, so you get to the end and you've got to turn with the one arm, with the barbell in your hand, and because you're holding it with one arm, it just sways like crazy as you're turning round. So it's like all about engaging your core and keeping that stability to be able to walk back with it.
It's so awkward in your hand, isn't it? And I'm just excited because I reckon after 2 or 3 more weeks, it might not be awkward in your hand. And then you've obviously made progress, and and it's not just like, oh, I can bench 10 more kilos, my chest is stronger. It's like, no, the palm of my hand can hold a strange obstacle and be more stable. So how many muscles are involved in that, you know? So it's like actually like a far more human, like to get to those nitty gritty stabilizer muscles. It just feels like there's something positive going on.
Well, I think that with those sort of with all these sort of movements, the beauty of it is sort of threefold. One, you're doing a new movement. 2, it's mentally so taxing because you need to focus the whole time. I think with, you know, when people are doing stuff like bodybuilding and stuff like that, you get the high level bodybuilders get to where they get to because they can stay switched on mentally the whole time. So they're keeping their muscles activated. But then when you've got the average person going to the gym doing that sort of movement, they probably switch off like a few reps in.
Oh,
and
you
it's
see
just
them,
like
headphones in, let me just do 10 reps of this, and they're not like, not finding the intention or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with these movements, there's no hiding from, there's no switching off.
You couldn't
can't
put
switch
headphones
off.
in and just go really, like for a lot of this stuff.
No way. And then the third thing is, you're activating all these little tiny muscles that you wouldn't normally work. And I think that that's where there's a huge crossover to this idea of sort of big cat training, like you're saying, or for any athletes looking to switch up their training, because you're working all these small muscles in like weird positions, and you're strengthening, and like WEC says, you're taking slack out of the system. So you're like strengthening all these little bits. And I think, you know, when you play any sport, especially like contact sports like game of rugby or American football or whatever like that, you're not always going to be in the perfect position. Oftentimes you're over a ruck, your lower back's bent, you're trying to wrench the ball up.
The guy's not simulating a barbell that you're trying to lift, is he?
It couldn't be further. It's like further from a deadlift, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like great to do all these movements where you're like taxing yourself in unusual positions, and in like, you know, what classic, you know, all the people that wrote the sort of gym textbooks probably turn in their grave with some of these body positions. But, you know, we've been doing it for a while now, playing around with it. No injuries. feeling strong,
Stronger than I've ever been, mate.
feeling mobile.
I've hit my power lift PRs on all 3 lifts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you haven't been training them.
And I've not been training them. So in my first session of deadlifting, I hit a 150 deadlift for one. And that my previous personal record was 140. I covered that previous. That was while I was doing CrossFit. Now, the other week I did squat, and my previous squat was 140 as well. And I did 150 last week. That was our first squat session back since I did that. And I did bench as well, and I'd never hit 100 before. I'd only ever trained it a couple times, so I'd never gone for it. But to do it in the first session, because when I remember training for 100, a few sessions, and I thought, it's going to take me longer than I want it to take me. Yeah. And then I just did it the other day, first session, just like, let's put it on the bar. And you could even have done 2 potentially. So to hit that from just focused on the sessions with you that we've been doing, the strongman training just does so much. If you literally didn't even necessarily do the strong fit style of strongman training, and you just did strongman equipment, the sandbag carries, the Atlas stones, the yokes, all that stuff. It just does, and you've got a foundation level. If you're trying to peak, different discussion. I'm sure it could still help people with certain lifts, but to hit those 3, I weigh 80 kilos, 5'9", and to have those numbers to start with, I'm not going to attempt, as we discussed, I'm not going to attempt a one rep max now on either of those 3 lifts for a while. We're just going to keep training, and then maybe in like 12 weeks, or you said potentially we'll do some actual ramping down to 1 lift, right, at some point.
So I think the plan. So
how would you do this if you were like structuring it for us?
In the training block at the moment, what we're doing is we're building up to a heavy 5 rep on a squat, a bench, and a deadlift.
Is that the intention of the?
Yeah, that's the programming.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that for the first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So the idea is just to like raise, your heavy 5 rep, and you'll be raising the subsequent workup sets, and you just be getting that volume in. You'll be building that muscle memory, like learning to, perfecting your technique with the lift, getting comfortable under the bar or over the bar, depending on the lift. And then once we've done that 6 weeks of work, what we'll start doing is we'll start ramping the weight up and reducing the reps, but increasing the set range. Yeah. So we might end up doing like 10 sets of 2, stuff like that, heavier weights. And then that's when you'll be dialing in the skill of lifting heavy weight. And the beauty of... Yeah, stuff like that. And it'll just be like going to the gym, and probably the whole session will be like deadlifts. But what will be the beauty of this 6 weeks is not only are we building the base on the deadlift, but like you said, because we're doing all the strongman training as well, you are learning, you're giving your body this structure where you're taking all the slack out of the system. So when you get under that, bench press bar or the squat or, over the deadlift bar, you're going to be able to recruit every single muscle in your body. That's what we're teaching our bodies to do.
What as Wet calls it, myosin, lectin and myosin. The name of them.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, like he goes into not one disc slip in the system.
Yeah.
Not what every. I don't know if it's lectin or something, and myosin is like every fiber's recruited. Yeah, so awesome. So when we did the 1-arm deadlift, which I really liked, and we did 2 lots of 8 reps, right, on each hand. So 2 rounds of 2 lots of it. 60 kilos, then 70 kilos. And what I loved about that was you really find that you feel strong, but then you realize the grip is like the weak point in that. And that's a great way to train your deadlift grip, was the 1-arm deadlift, wasn't it? Would you say that? Yeah,
definitely. Because it's an overhand grip as well. We're obviously trying to play around with that a little bit more. I think all this training is going to do the 1-arm deadlifts post doing the rope climbs and stuff like that. Your grip's already taxed. You go into those sets, your fingers are shaking.
Yeah, rock climbing yesterday, and then coming in today, like, okay, but it's all complement each other. It's still the fingertip strength of rock climbing, and then the hook grip of a barbell is both forearm, but completely different sections of the forearm, it feels like.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things that we're sort of kind of working out at the moment, is how can the programming work? Because if the goal's to be bigger, faster, stronger, more mobile, and sort of this complete, rounded athlete, you're gonna have to train everything. And how do you set up the program to be able to train everything without overdoing yourself?
Because we've not done kettlebell in ages, really, have we?
Yeah, exactly.
And I just want to reiterate a point. Pavel Tudetsin, or however you say his name, butchering that, but he made that the fastest way to get stronger is to improve your grip strength and to improve your core. And so I'd actually hit a Pilates class the other day, because I do think like doing some like core stuff is great, and then the grip training we're doing. So I'm hitting both of those, but without the kettlebells. Like you say, yeah, how could like a 2-week program where you only do things once every 2 weeks would be too like not enjoyable enough. So I'm just kind of like, what's my priorities for what I enjoy, but then what can my body take and recover from? Yeah.
It's with the Pilates, how can you so when we're doing the strongman training, I feel like to be able to do those one-arm barbell carries and some of those movements, I need to brace and be able to engage my core, my external obliques, all these muscles. How does that compare, doing a session like that, to the Pilates class in terms of like how taxed your
In
core
David
feels?
Lloyd with all those 50-year-old ladies. Yeah. No, well, they do a thing called hundreds where you like hold a position. You're doing a lot of dishes, so you're on your back. The cues that they do in Pilates, the thing is, Joseph Pilates founded that to help people improve their posture. And I think if you have a really good teacher, and I've done a lot more yoga than I've done Pilates. They're so almost different, and yet they're kind of similar in many ways. But they actually breathe on the opposite cycle. Most to Ashtanga to Pilates, they breathe. One of them breathes in as you breathe out, and the other one basically as you're moving into the position. Yeah, I know. But they do a lot of like lower back, like coccyx, tailbone tucked. You know, like the functional patterns, like lower back flat. Zip up your pelvic floor, which are doing the bandhas, you know, your Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha in yoga. They have that basically in Pilates. And you're doing a lot of core stuff where you're like lifting the legs, but as you lift the legs, you're lying on your back, you keep your lower back driving into the floor. And I think so many people, if they lift their legs, they just let their back arch. And the cue of driving that into the floor as you lift, it just fires all the right muscles in your stomach that I really feel like you can't get them even with lifting weights sometimes. Like, you know, I love when I see Savage Protocols on his Instagram, he's doing bench presses with his back on a Bosu ball, feet driving into the floor, heels driving forwards. And you can see he's actually like engaging everything in his body. And I think that's the closest stuff I see in people that are actually lifting in a way that is like yoga or Pilates for weightlifters. Like it starts to get there.
And I think that's one of the keys for me, is like starting to do all these little primer movements like we've walked through in the past, where you're doing these things to activate your lower lat, turn your external obliques on, and doing them as a warm-up or even in between sets, like priming for the upcoming set. Because that, like, I've seen some people do that, and I've used this example before, pretty sure, with Dom Rapson. His Instagram handle's Origins Nutrition, but he's like around about the 80 kilo mark.
Yeah, same as me.
Calisthenics coach and carnivore, and he did a 250 kilo deadlift, which
250?
is yeah.
Holy guacamole.
Which is crazy, isn't it? And it's like, how can he do that? Well, how he can do that is because he's able to utilize every single fiber of muscle, and I think that's something that calisthenics trains.
Yeah.
Like when you're holding these flag positions and etc., you know, absolutely everything's turned on.
Recruiting, yeah.
So that is a huge part of the puzzle, which I think a lot of people miss, is like just learning to recruit every muscle fiber, or put another way, take all the slack out of the system, and then that just gives you
every actin and myosin. That's what it is. Yep.
Is that what Weck says? Yeah. So there you go. There's three ways to say the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a massive part of the puzzle. So like doing all these little exercises, and especially like, so StrongFit has external oblique openers. You can look them up on YouTube, and it's like you put a kettlebell on your stomach, and it trains you to be able to switch your external obliques on. And for me personally, when I started doing those, it was really hard to go away and do that session. It's like really hard work.
We did the 30-minute session of that when we went to the training camp.
Really?
They turn the lights off, put some music on, and said, right, 30 minutes, get into your obliques. I want you to feel something.
Yeah.
It got emotional. Yeah.
I bet.
I probably said it before, but they said they've got women's periods back with just that oblique opener training.
Yeah, it's
like
crazy.
20 women, yeah.
And I think that's like, for majority of people, especially people that like sat at their desk all day, like when you're in that sort of slouched over desk position, it couldn't be more switched off, right? So like being able to learn to switch that back on, and stuff like when you're doing the overhead presses, you know, a lot of people have a tendency to like poke their head through, because that's what, people do when they're watching CrossFit, or it's what Olympic lifters do.
Yeah, but it's not actually how you meant to.
Well, it's not. It's like if you're looking for
came
injury,
from CrossFit, doesn't it?
I think it's from CrossFit.
He said
maybe.
it because a judge would give you no rep if it didn't look. So to make sure that they showed the ref that they've given a rep, they shove their head through on the overhead press.
Yeah.
But it's not actually what the body wants or necessarily ideal to do that every rep. Like,
well, if
it's quite unnatural to be here.
Yeah, it feels
like,
super unnatural.
It's more natural to have the chest engaged and
Yeah, and I think like if you think about like a farmer or someone like that, like stacking hay bales or whatever, you're gonna be watching where that object's going. You're gonna be looking up at it.
Yeah.
And what's happened if you're looking up and you're pressing something overhead to like plop it on a shelf or whatever, chest's going to be engaged, biceps are going to be engaged rather than your delts. So yeah, it's just like it's retraining all those little things by using all these primer exercises to go rethink how you're doing movements, how you're doing lifts. And I think we can see we're getting a lot stronger for it. I think people will be generally as well.
I hit my old deadlift. And I could have probably done 150 for 5.
Yeah, you could have definitely done more.
Yeah. So that's from this work, from Work Methods, Strong Fit Training. So I don't know how, because it's so, this is a bloody podcast. Like, how do we teach people what we're talking about? We're hoping that they can take some stuff away, or they can go and look into Strong Fit's channel and see some of the guidance from them guys. We're trying to direct you to them, but we definitely want to help create. I mean, you've written a program for someone recently, right? Someone emailed you asking.
Yeah, I've written someone a program recently, and I think I'm starting to. I think we're still very much in the stage where we're working this out for ourselves.
Yeah.
But it is like going into every training session we're doing with that lens of, you're trying to piece the puzzle. I think we're really trying to piece the puzzle together, and we're getting stuff. We're trial and error and getting some stuff right and saying, okay, let's keep going with that, or let's drop this away. And it is coming together piece by piece.
It is, man. It is, and we'll see what the future holds for it, man. We talk about it, but we just. I feel like it's important. Like, you've got to be years deep until you start trying to teach stuff, and we're still fairly. I mean, we've got years of experience between us in movement, in weightlifting, but this is like a whole new paradigm.
Yeah.
In terms of how we do it, and it's nice that when I'm at the gym with you, and we're doing it together. I don't know how you feel because you go on your own and do it, but you're quite big. People probably respect what you're doing. But I imagine for some people to go in the gym, like maybe and not even like the sweat box that we go to, which is kind of a more out there gym. If you're going to your DW or whatever, and then you start doing some of the overhead one-arm barbell walks, people might look at you a bit strange. But when we're together, I feel like people must be like, oh, what they're doing? I'm kind of interested,
Yeah, I saw a video the day Jonathan Last shared it on his Instagram story. He's doing handstands in like a DW Sport or something like that, and there's this guy just sat on the machine. He's
RHP,
filming himself,
by the way. Yeah.
And this guy's just giving him the finger.
Giving him the finger.
Yeah.
To Johnny?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
And he couldn't see it, obviously, because he's facing the other way, but he was filming himself do the handstand. When he watched the handstand back, he saw this guy in the background.
Yeah.
Just funny, man. But that's the thing.
I do find it uncomfortable doing stuff like that in those gyms.
Yeah.
Like handstands and stuff, yeah.
But I think it's the future of fitness, right? And like, what's life if you're not stepping outside your comfort zone and doing shit that makes you feel, uncomfortable, whatever. It's like... Yeah. It's part of that almost spiritual practice where you're learning to not give a fuck what people think,
Yeah. Until you come back around and you evolve to giving a fucking as Spiral Dynamics showed us.
Yep.
Yeah. What we finished with a bit of D-ball carry, yeah? That was after the deadlifts.
Yeah.
And that was us done, came here, made some food.
Yeah. I was gassed after that. It was supposed to be a 400-meter D-ball carry.
Yeah. Which we managed to do at PFP, but in a 10-meter run, it's not nice to do 40 lengths of that thing.
Yeah, turning round. There's something that turning round does to the psychology where you're like, if you can just see a finish line in the distance.
Yeah.
It's
if it was one lap of a running track, you'd do it. You just crack on.
You can just tank it out, but there's something about turning around, for sure.
Counting down 40 reps is not the one.
Yeah, so that was that for today. And then like generally in terms of a week, basically what I'm doing is I'm doing a session similar to that every other day. So one week I'll end up doing 3 sessions, the next week I'll probably end up doing 4 sessions. Yeah. And then on top of those sessions, I'm doing one track session with you where we're working on specifically trying to tackle the Marines running entry exam, and I'm not trying to enter the Marines because so many people have asked me
Everyone
that.
thinks that, yeah.
I just want to do it. I think it's a good test, to be able to say, you know, they're fit guys, and I vowed that I was going to never run again after rugby, but you've managed to like talk me back into it, and I'm actually quite enjoying it now. I'm glad to be doing it.
Test that in a couple of weeks, I think.
So yeah, we're going to test that soon, and then the other thing I'm doing is I'm just doing a 4 to 5k run and just nose breathing only. So just slow pace. I'm not even timing it. I'm not worrying about metrics or anything like that. I'm just seeing how I feel on the day, and I'm just going at a pace where I can comfortably nose breathe.
That's that's like I was saying yesterday. That's quite energy building as well, isn't it? The nose breathe small run.
Yeah.
Great for all humans, I think.
Yeah, it's good, and it's refreshing for me as well, because I'm always I'm one of those guys that, you know, writes every set and rep down, and then next week I've got to try and get something more or do a little bit less rest or whatever. And it's refreshing to do something in the program where you're like purposefully not worrying about the metrics, you know what I mean?
I do like how structured you are when I turn up for a session with you, but I guess I'm the same for you with running.
Yeah, exactly.
It works both ways. Kind of complement each other with our left-brained application to training. Cool, man. So that's where we're at with training. There's a couple other topics I kind of wanted to hit this week. I guess first one, we'll go straight into it, because I think it was you even that showed me the article, right? You were like, have you heard of this Drew Dreshel guy, Ninja Warrior?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I heard of him. He was actually, when I'd competed, I've trained with him a few times, parkour train. I've trained with him Ninja Warrior. When I was in Miami, I competed against him on the regional competition. And then I competed against him internationally in Vegas. As when I was in Team Europe and we did USA versus the world, they quite liked pitting me against him because we were kind of the fastest two athletes. So the producers would put me against Drew, and he was kind of my nemesis. Mm-hmm. Always, I don't know, and like got on cordial enough, but I could tell he was very much kind of out for himself, and that is what it is, right? Wants his own fame and his own thing. Mm-hmm. But that's each their own, you know, fair play. But then it came out this week, you sent me an article that he had been having sex with an underage girl. It's turned out, I think 4 years ago in 2015, they started having relations when she was 15 and he was maybe 28, 29. And there's laws in place, and that is, you know, you're overstepping a line there. But what upsets me is I've seen the titles of some of these articles that say like child rape, child porn on his phone, like, and these are headlines of articles. Now the one, as you pointed out to me yesterday, and I think it's great to point out, what happened to innocent till proven guilty. This isn't gone through courts yet. This is still, you know, this is new information that's just coming out. He's been arrested for it, whatever, and then they're going to go through their process of like finding out. We don't know where this ends up. But having said that, even beyond that, I've heard that he's all the gyms. He won Ninja Warrior last year. He won $1 million, and so I had to see this about this guy, and to see these headlines, and then to see the Ninja Warrior community castrate the guy and like completely beyond cancel him. This is beyond cancelling, right? Like calling him a paedophile and stuff like that. I just think in my head, someone needs to speak out in sort of in defense of this, you know, not defending his actions to sleep with a girl underage. I don't think that's right. But when I see the articles titling it and completely ruining this guy's life, and seeing that he could get 20 years to life for the charges that he's been potentially charged with, is so, you know, on top of the actual issues that are going off with the Epstein and the real case of child trafficking and paedophilia that exists from people in power and all over, to a case like this, where this is just an athlete who, and I've heard, you know, I don't know the full story, so I can only share from my little bit of digging, you know, she'd come on to a lot of ninja athletes, right? Attractive at that age, you know, nubile, flourished early maybe, came on to a few ninjas. They, no thank you, ended up with Drew. They had sex behind a warped wall, apparently, in the article, which I found quite, you know, to soften it a bit, was quite fair play.
Behind what?
The warped wall.
What, in Ninja Warrior?
You know the thing that pushed your calf?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're always built and there's a little cave behind them. So
Jesus.
not on one of the like gyms.
Yeah.
So, like, the gym
No, I
we
got
went
you. Got to sensationalize those headlines.
Yeah. So, but they ended up having a relationship apparently on and off. I think he had it right. So it's not. I'm not defending the guy. Like I'm just saying that's over the top, right?
Yeah,
those charges.
Yeah, I think that's something to make clear. From the offset, we're not saying what he did was a good thing by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
That law's the law, and like that is illegal.
He stepped over the line.
Yeah.
But for millennia, for centuries, we humans, I don't know how to say this because I'm not, I'm not doing this. I'm not acting that way, right? But we used to, I read a book set in Afghanistan, literally in like 80s and 90s, like a few decades ago. And a woman's 14, turning 15. Her mum, she's got no parents, and she's got like a uncle type thing. And he's like, your mum's just committed suicide. We can't look after you. You need to get married. And then she ends up getting like a marriage to like a 45-year-old man who doesn't have a wife. And she's like 14.
Thousand Splendid Sons, that book.
Thousand Splendid Sons, yeah. And it's just a completely normal thing that happened in those cultures, not even like decades ago. Then you look at, I'm reading a book about native Indians, and it goes into like the Texans at the time, and there was a girl, a Parker, who the family ended up getting raided and kidnapped by the Comanches. But she was 15 and married to someone at that time. And you look at Romeo and Juliet, and supposedly Juliet was like 14, 15. And it's like, there's something in our history when it was kind of not even that, it's not, I think even the definition of like paedophilia is under 13 and prepubescent, right? So it's like, that's completely messed up. But to give these headlines against the guy and to berate him and the TV shows courtise, which I get, they've got to do that. But someone has to if I seem overly one way, it's because I'm trying to balance the perspective of this. Do you know what I mean?
I think for me, looking at it, it's like one of the point you made early on. It's like you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, right? And because of the way the media are today, with sensationalizing headlines, putting out clickbait left, right, and center, they see something like this and they jump on it and they use all those triggering words, like you just said.
American Ninja Warrior champion in child porn thing, like that's like the most catchy bloody headline.
And the problem is now, if this poor guy, it turns out he's innocent.
Yeah,
like they've already. I
mean, I don't think he's.
I don't know.
He's not innocent to the law, but it's the way that the law is over the top, and then the way that we're treating that as bad, and yet Jimmy Savile and Prince bloody Andrew.
Yeah. Well,
who's with an underage girl as well. It hasn't even, like, this guy could get 20 years. He's with an underage girl who's a prostitute, who's been prostituted against her will. Yeah. And he's got nothing for it.
Yeah, and
like, come on.
Newspaper headlines was Prince Andrew potentially sleeps with underage.
Yeah, they didn't
woman.
call that child rape.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the way they word it is like shining him in as good as light as possible.
Yeah.
When if it's someone that hasn't got an influence over the media outlets, of an athlete or someone, they just hang them out to dry.
Yeah.
And it's just it's double standards, and it's completely unfair by the media. It's like, if you're going to take that, if you're going to present, if that's the way you want to present as a media outlet, if you want to be just cruel to people and put those horrific headlines out there, at least be consistent. Do that for everyone.
It's his friends as well, and all the ninja gyms are like because it's just the programmed of the world, and just to get Bisbing on it, and I just want to be honest and share my opinion. I don't want to have to tread on friggin' eggshells.
Yeah,
like it looks though. They were dating kind of behind the scenes for a few years. I think he was cheating on a girlfriend, maybe a thing who he'd got pregnant and all this stuff. So it's not a good look. It's not, just 20 years in prison and to be is nothing. I've said that enough times. But, he won Ninja Warrior, wins $1 million. His this girl who he'd got with at a point when she was underage and maybe became of age while they were seeing each other. How many I was 17 dating a 15-year-old at school, so that was technically for England where the age limit's 16. That was technically a line, and it's so her mum maybe, who I seen was involved in the articles as well, seeing that, oh, you were dating him and he's just won $1 million and he's just kind of like backhanded you now for his new girlfriend who's had a baby with, you know, maybe we can have something here. Maybe we can get something out of this guy or something. You know, it just seems a bit, the justice system just seems a bit too, I don't know. We'll see if maybe it will work out, you know. But.
It's a difficult thing to comment on, but like I think the angle, like the bit that's sort of easy to, well, I think it's obvious. It should be obvious to the masses, like the way the media just hang people out to dry, and you've seen it with Brian Callen at the moment. Like Brian Callen, the comedian, he's been. I'm not exactly 100% sure what he's been accused of, but I saw his sort of like defense video
Some
that
rape
he put
charges
out
as well, right?
And yeah, it's just like, again, it's like the media have jumped on it and they've, you know, put it out there into the world. And the problem for him now is like he's had to shut down his life. He's come off his podcast. I think he was like involved in the TV show and he's had to pull away from all of that. And he's come out and categorically said that he's not guilty. Well, it's like, you know, so potentially I don't know, but potentially he's done nothing wrong, but he's gonna get punished. He's gonna have a massive punishment for it.
I've seen that some people have defended him though.
Yeah,
which is good to see.
Yeah.
Also on that, that's a good point as well though. It seems from the outside, but it seems clearly consented, even though she was, they say underage, you can't consent for yourself, wasn't, you know, but it wasn't like actually, like the idea of rape is so, the spectrum of what that can be, of like having a willing, you know, they've gone under the warped wall together. He's not like dragged her there. You know, I don't know the story, but this is just what it seems like, as though they've both willingly gone under a warped wall and had some fun. Yeah. Compared to like actually like, don't do that, please stop. Penetration. Like, how can that be the same word used for both of those things? It's insane. And to continue on this, as you mentioned Brian Callen, and Paulie Malignaggi is another one, right? I don't know if you've seen about him. Yeah, I haven't seen. He got sacked from Showtime or NBC or something for supposedly denying oppression. I think I pulled up something. He basically, I think he said that the white Eastern Europeans are kind of leading the boxing right now, something like that. He said blacks led it in the 90s or whatever, and now it's these Europeans. You know, you'd have to look into it more, but I only know, I listened to Bisping talk about it, and then he was kind of like, oh, maybe Paulie's done some stuff behind the scenes, but basically got sacked for denying oppression exists. But what I did discover was that Paulie was saying that in response to Devin Haney, who said this, and I've got the quote here: "I will never lose to a white boy in my life. I don't care what nobody has to say. Can't no white boy beat me on any day of the week. Fight a white boy 10 times, beat a white boy 10 times. And like, no one talks about Devin Haney seeing this. Paulie's lost his job for like responding to that, saying that the whites, Eastern Europeans are the best boxers of the current era, you know, and then I think Paulie refused to take his statement back, which, you know, if you're going to say it, at least back, you know, kind of back it. Because you see so many times people make statements and then they're like, oh, retract. You know, you see these NFL players. And then there's another point which I brought up to you yesterday, but that there's Craig Ramage was a BBC. These are sensitive subjects for people, and but it's the way I've just seen people castrated that upsets me. I'm not saying that these people shouldn't have question brought to them or shouldn't be, you know, go to further education, but or even apologize for the way they've worded something. Because at the same, you know, he's a fighter. He's not Jordan Peterson. He's not going to word it perfectly, you know, so that everyone's... But even though Jordan doesn't hold back either, to be fair. But Craig Ramage, commentator for the Derby County BBC, he basically said the young black boys at the back need pulling down a peg or two. Rather than referring to names, he kind of referred to them as young black boys at the back of Derby County, you know, the defenders, who'd let in a few goals, whatever, said they need bringing down a peg or two. And he lost his job for basically saying that.
That's crazy in my eyes.
Seen as racist, got complete hate all over social media, lost his whole living and livelihood but in that context for me, it doesn't, for trying to look at it rationally, he didn't say because they're black, they need to be brought down a peg or two, which would be racist. If he in any way insinuated that because of the colour of their skin, they needed to be brought down, that is completely racist, and he should completely get whatever comes to him. But to use it to categorise them, that was what which isn't the best thing to do, but it's not racist in itself. Do you know what I mean? Like, call them by their names. Okay, he's a commentator, former player. He's gonna just make comments. He could retract it, let him get on with his job. But to just not even give him a say, just to sack him, it's gone to this overcompensation where it's actually almost like it's just idiotic because we're overcompensating the opposite direction now, rather than looking at things rationally. And I just wanted to speak on that.
There's a level of sensitivity on them in the world at the moment where like people just want to feel like they just want to jump down other people's throats for stuff they say and
shame fetish. It's a shame fetish. Can't wait to shame someone. We can't wait to cancel someone.
And it's crazy. It's like at a time when the world is sort of going through all this madness and like people need to be, pooling together and trying to be understanding and giving people the opportunity. If someone says something which is politically incorrect or whatever, there should be like, someone could highlight that to them, say, oh no, you should have maybe said this instead. And this is why. And then they go, oh yeah, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I get that. Just sacking someone over like, especially someone who's an ex-football player, maybe, they're not necessarily the most politically correct person to begin with. And then they speak for a living. They're a commentator. They actually speak for a living. You're gonna say stupid stuff now and again. It's just like, you can't be perfect 100% of the time. And it's like, I think, we just need to try and understand each other a little bit more rather than just saying, oh, this person thinks differently to me, or you shouldn't have said that, and just castrate them for it.
Yeah, it's a problem. Just wanted to reiterate, I'm not here to say anything that any of these actions is okay in itself, but it just needs to be looked at with a bit more of a neutral lens. I just think everyone's looking at it from this, here's what it is. There's a problem in society, right? There is oppression exists. People are so quick to try and squash the oppression that they don't actually look at things clearly to see what is the problem and what isn't. Do you know what I mean? Like if it looks sort of close to it, then they're just trying to like dismantle it straight away rather than actually looking at like things rationally.
I think there's a lot of black and white thinking going on in a grey world for me. There's nuances within all of this stuff. There's grey areas. There's, two sides to every story. There's intention. There's a million different factors that play into different bits and pieces. And we're trying to put it into a box of right and wrong. Yeah.
But look, I guess use like victims as a, how do we create like a marker? Because, I guess how the level of victim in this stuff, from the Epstein case, who got 13 months, for all the victims that from him.
Yeah, so to reiterate that, the first time Epstein went to prison, he went to prison for 13 months.
Yes.
For, what were the charges?
So this was after he'd already done like hundreds of underage girls from Florida schools in poverty, giving them $200 a time. But he only ended up getting 2 charges, which was never, it was like solicit to prostitution or something. It was never actually like that he actually did it. It was his intent. It was as though he had intention to do something, basically. And as part of that, which they call it a sweetheart deal, everyone else who was associated in the case that could be named was completely cleared so that they wouldn't get, which is absolutely ridiculous. And all the victims of Epstein weren't told. I was listening to Maria Farmer on Sean Atwood yesterday. She didn't know Epstein was in prison until 5 years after. Because they never even contacted all the other victims that had spoken against him to let them know that this guy had a hearing. They just quickly got it through, 13 months, of which 6 days he was allowed for 12 hours out of the prison. And then 1 day a week he had to be there Sundays was the whole day. So then anyway, on his coming out party of that 13 months in prison, in quotation marks, right? Prince Andrew was the guest of honor. Prince Andrew showed up at his party as the guest of honor, which I don't know if he was aware of being the guest of honor, but he showed up at the party, and I think Epstein was like, I guest of honor, because he liked to use them, as celebrities. Let's just quick, because we keep it rolling on the Epstein. I've been digging so deep this week, further into the Epstein, but beyond that, into Sean Atwood stuff, into out UK Out Shadows and all this stuff. It seems clearer and clearer. It was like a revelation, even though it had been mentioned before. But you have this stuff. You have to like marinate on it, right? And it just stuck a lot clearer this time when I heard it again. Was that Epstein's primary focus as although he was below Giselle Maxwell, whose father was an Israeli helped the Israeli Secret Service. She too, it appears as though she was helping, allegedly. You know, it would appear she's helping the Israeli Secret Service. She's using Epstein as the Gatsby character because I guess, you know, you need like that kind of
He's the front of house guy.
The front of house, you know, invite the Gatsby character that like invites everyone in. She's putting this. She's got connections. Come to him, and Epstein can help the male feel more comfortable. She's way more sinister. She was manipulating the females, whereas Epstein would like brother love to the males. So he would get the characters like Ehud Barak, the Israeli, you know, some Saudi prince and Andrew and all these. But actually, I thought originally was that it was to get the government officials on camera having sex and doing things with underage girls. Mm-hmm. Then it seems clearer and clearer, having revisited that Eric Weinstein stuff, because he was a scientist that got invited to Epstein's and then didn't take the bait, what he thought might have been bait. So say a scientist goes along to one of Epstein's parties that works in Silicon Valley or something, or technologist, is that the word? They've got some leading edge technology. Epstein invites them to the party, gets sweet talking, puts out a few feelers, see if they want this girl or whatever. Mm-hmm. Hooks that scientist up with a girl who may have never had an opportunity like that in his life. And I don't know about you, but your dick is a dangerous thing. Like your balls can lead you down things, as we've seen with Drew or whatever, you know, mm-hmm. things that you shouldn't be doing. It's, you know, you've got to keep that in check. You've got to be on top of it. If you're a scientist at some private party and you get offered something, they've lost control, gone along maybe with this thing, gone and done something at one of Epstein's parties. He's captured it and then blackmailed the scientists, the technologists, saying, we're going to leak this, because it would completely ruin that. Like a government official, a prince can kind of get away with doing this stuff. They know how to cover it up with the media and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas a scientist, his life's screwed if it gets out that he's been doing this stuff. Mm-hmm. So they blackmail. This is how Israel gets the best technology, and is through the honeypot system with people like Epstein and other traps, because this is not the only one. This is the one that's been found out. Yeah. And maybe it was found out because Epstein couldn't keep a lid on his own actions, right? But imagine other ones where someone's a bit more in control than Epstein and they're a bit more calculated and they don't let their own things get out, but they're still, you know, using the child trafficking in Hawaii through Lex Wessner or whatever. So they get the scientists, frame them, blackmail, because you can't, blackmail is just going to work on these people at this stage. And then they get all the technology from them, and that's how they get them.
I think Weinstein said as well, and I might be butchering this, but in one of his videos, that the way the system's sort of set up in the US for scientists is a lot of them will be working on projects, but they'll be basically attached to a university, and they'll be teaching at the university whilst they're, you know, carrying out whatever studies they're carrying out. And they might be doing basically groundbreaking research on a, you know, university professor's salary type thing. So he said,
they're not getting paid.
They're not getting paid. So then obviously for Epstein, you know, maybe if the
you can offer them money,
honeypot doesn't work, then you know he can pay them out, and it does appear.
So they've got many different strings to get these scientists and
to
technologists. Sort of, what is the word, Lewis? Do you know? Is that right? Scientists, I guess it would be.
Yeah, scientists, and that is so interesting, because I don't know if we mentioned this, but
engineers maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, when Weinstein went to Epstein's house, did we tell the story of that on the last week?
Yeah.
And it just seemed so sort of an insidious meeting. Kind of made you.
He said he kept bouncing the girl on his knee, making her laugh. Periodically, and
there was like cameras around the house, like really obviously placed, so you kind of knew you were being filmed, but so if you weren't that way minded, it was like they were obviously placed enough for you to recognize them, but some people would go, oh, I'm being filmed and I'm not supposed to know about it. But Weinstein was like, oh, that was his first thought, and then when he thought on it more deeply, he was like, nah, that was too obvious. Like, I was supposed to know that I was being filmed.
So basically, if they did get the scientists on camera with an underage girl or whatever they got, then they turn around and go, you can't. They know when they made the choice to go do what they did with the underage person, they knew they were being on camera when they made that choice. So they're not even surprised when he turns around and goes, you know, give me the technology or I'm going to expose this. Which is, which does that seem clearer for you and me? Like it feels
Yeah,
like
definitely. It seems like
that it was more the scientists and the government officials, but they also get them as well.
Yeah, well, it's just it seemed like they were looking to honeypot government officials, high flying businessmen, celebrities, scientists. You know, the whole shebang, basically.
You're right. Money. So I heard Sean Atwood or someone say like money works for most people, like me and you and the people listeners, like in terms of. Well, no, you know, a certain thing, but for most people, money is the bribe to get people. But for people that have so much money, like royals and government officials, money doesn't work. It's blackmail. They need. So those are the two kind of. Someone who's going to sell their soul is money or blackmail. Is like the two, you know.
Well, that's what. And I mentioned that book, The Economic Hitman, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he said there was 3 layers to the way they'd kind of entrap people. They'd first of all paint them this like this rosy picture of what we can do for you, and try and sort of get them hook, line, and sinker without realizing what's actually going on. And then if that didn't work, they would then go in and try and go the corrupt route and bribe some people or blackmail some people. And then if that didn't work, they would actually start killing people off. So there's levels to this shit for sure. It's madness.
It is, but it feels like something's being unearthed right now, and so I was just happy to watch. But we tried to mix it up with the training talk because that's valuable as well.
Yeah, for sure. Are we gonna finish up with a little bit UFC predictions for the weekend?
Yeah, let's switch it up. Getting some UFC talk. Sean O'Malley, baby, Sugar Show. I kind of got I really like Sean, but then he's almost starting to like kind of drain on me a bit. It's like
he's like.
He's like too calm and confident now. Like
it's going to be interesting, right? Because
he's so relaxed.
You know more than me about it, but he's going into this one, and I've heard a few commentators that know what they're talking about, saying that Cheeto is going to be his first like real test.
Cheeto looks lethal, man.
Yeah, and I've watched some of his training videos, and I caught one of his previous fights this week, and he looks like a real tough guy, right? He's always walking forward. He looks mean. He's just like he looks very athletic, explosive. And for him coming into this fight, he must have the bit between his teeth, because every interview you see Sean in, he's talking about fighting Cody, he's talking about fighting for the belt. He hasn't mentioned Cheeto once.
Yeah.
It's like if you're fighting someone and they're not even considering you like a fight, they're just looking at that next step. Yeah. You must be fuming.
Yeah, no. But he seems like a cool character. So I think that fight's going to be ridiculous. Obviously, the Cormier-Miocic trilogy, the rubber match, one apiece. Heavyweight title on the line, fight for who's the greatest heavyweight of all time. This fight is for. DC's confirmed retiring after the fight.
Not if he loses, calling it.
I think you reckon? Yeah, we'll see. Miocic maybe even retire as well. If Miocic wins, I reckon he'll retire. But I wonder if he'll let DC get his limelight, on the way. Go on then, predictions. And then you've got Rosenstruck versus Dos Santos as well.
Right, so. Working my way up the card, I reckon Rosenstruck's going to win.
I'm going to say Dos Santos, but Rosenstruck's lethal.
That's the one I know least about, to be fair, that bout.
Yeah. Dos Santos has looked good lately. He has looked good, but
I've got a back Sean, man. I'm a big Sean fan.
Yeah,
and I think he's on a roll.
I think he's going to get a finish, to be fair.
Yeah, well, it's been all finishes so far, right?
It has been, yeah.
And he just looks so sharp. And then for the heavyweight, I like both fighters, but I'm voting with my heart, and that's why I want to see DC win and go out with a bang, because otherwise he's going to be the Neely man, and it's going to be savage.
I picked against him the first time, then I picked for him the second time, so I was wrong twice so far.
Don't give him the curse.
No, I know I'm going to give him the curse. I'm going to pick him. I'm going to pick DC, but I do kind of like Miocic is so calm, and I think I said to you or Lewis, like if karma's on anyone's side, it's Miocic's side. Like he kind of just is so like reserved and a firefighter and everything. It's like
he's a firefighter still.
He does 4 days a month, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Not as like
I've only heard him say it
9
once,
to 5.
Yeah, he doesn't shout about it,
but he's that last fight, it was just like DC was coming on strong, looked great, and he showed how tough he is, because he just hung in there, and then as soon as he found that left body shot, just went to town on it, didn't he?
He said he's filled that hole, but I think Miocic is. I always see Miocic, and I see Miocic's team, and I'm like, I just kind of like, in a sad way, judge them. I'm like, they don't look like, he's got that really skinny Mick guy.
I'm not sure.
I'm just like, how are this guy's like best in the world? But he just seems to deliver. And the way he performed against DC last time, you're like, fair play. I love seeing these small town guys with just the team around them. It's not like he comes from a big gym or anything. And against a gym like Javier Mendez, where they had Khabib's there. You've got Rockhold and Cain Velasquez. Those three were all champions at the same time. I think in 2015, DC was saying, I remember those times when Cain was heavyweight champion, Cormier was light heavyweight. I hope, Cormier's quite old. He's like 42 now or something. Like it might have caught up, but his last one, I think he's putting all his eggs in this one basket. And I'm going to go DC as well.
It's going to be in the smaller cage as well, mate. I think that plays to his advantage, right, with his wrestling.
Yeah, he said Stipe best to get his wrestling shoes for training because he's going to be coming wrestling. Cool. I think that's good chat for today. We kind of hit all angles. Thanks for hearing us out. This is just a show for us to express our concerns about the world. And
I think it's, we don't have to come into every ep with like a topic we want to discuss. It's nice to just sometimes have a catch up and use it as an excuse to sort of talk out what we're thinking about at the moment.
Yeah, and you guys feel free to suggest topics to us as well if there's anything you want us to dive into. Or but that's it. Where can they get your new lovely lion's mane? Maybe that's what's been firing us at this whole thing. Right?
Yeah, so www.apenutrition.co.uk. We got lion's mane, we got cordyceps, CBD oil, keto bars, and MCT oil. Everything's organic, everything's grass-fed, and we go to town on all the sourcing. And then Instagram is ape_nutrition.
Yeah, and you're already working on a new supplement thing, which we're not going to expose, but I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's cool.
So as that comes along, I'm sure you'll share that. For me, it's humantimothy.co.uk, and you can get the ropes, the way of the ropes. Still using them pretty much every day. We had a good session by the river yesterday. Sunset, roping out the water. And I just released Pro Pulsers like a week or so ago for UK, European distribution. I've only got 3 left at the moment. I've asked for another batch, but for now I've only got 3 left if you want one of them. I just posted a video on Instagram at Tim Moves of the inventor of those, explaining how they work, why they work, what they're for, how to use them. So if you want to see that, check out my Instagram at Tim Moves, where I post all my training stuff. My main Instagram at Human Timothy, which is more for the human stuff and the nature and spiritual stuff. And then at Way of the Rope for all the rope stuff. You can get it there. So thank you guys for tuning in and hearing us out this week. And stay tuned for more. We're losing Lewis soon. I don't know. We're going to try and get one more episode in maybe before he goes. We'll see. But Lewis has joined a cult for 3 weeks. A farming cult. They're Amish. He's joining an Amish cult, basically. Yeah. And that's not even far from the truth. Yeah. He's got horses tilling the ground. Cool. Anyway. Peace.
Cheers, guys.